evening and welcome to the Board of Education meeting being held on Tuesday, December 19th. We're calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. If you can please call the roll.
Mrs. Arvanitis,
Here.
Mrs. Assef,
Here.
Mrs. Caforio,
Here.
Mr. Collins,
I'm here.
Dr. Henry,
Here.
Mrs. Hostler,
Here.
and Mrs. Troutman.
Present.
7 board members present, 0 absent. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the Board of Education moved into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. 5 ILCS 120-2C1. Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. 5 ILCS 122C2, discussions of meetings, minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.065 ILCS 122C21.
I'll second.
I'm like,
Motion by
second.
Ms. Troutman, second by Mrs. Hostler. Can we please call the vote?
Mrs. Troutman,
yes.
Mrs. Hostler,
Yes.
Mrs. Assef,
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
and Mrs. Arvanitis.
Yes, 7 ayes, 0 nays. The board will move into closed session. On Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. The board has been in closed session for items listed on the agenda since 5:30 PM. We have 7 board members present, 0 absent, and at this time, I ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, lots on the agenda tonight to celebrate. Appreciate you all being here. We will start with our spotlight and recognition at the beginning of our meeting. And first, if we can please call forward Lauren DeAngelis and the girls cross country team to honor the ICCCA Coach of the Year and our girls cross country team achievements.
All right, I guess our order this evening is coach and then team. So let me read the proclamation for Lauren. Whereas Lauren DeAngelis, head girls cross country coach at York Community High School, has been named the Coach of the Year for 3A girls cross country, a prestigious and well-deserved honor awarded by the Illinois Track and Cross Country Coaches Association. And whereas Coach DeAngelis has dedicated an impressive 14 years to coaching cross country, with a noteworthy 11 years coaching the York girls cross country team. And whereas Coach DeAngelis has worked hard with great enthusiasm to maintain the reputation of the Lady Dukes as being one of the premier programs in the state, along with building a strong legacy since coming to York Community High School. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to York Community High School, to District 205, and to the community of Elmhurst. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Coach DeAngelis and her family for her outstanding performance.
Okay. Whereas the York girls cross country team demonstrated unparalleled excellence by placing first at the Illinois High School Association state meet, earning them the title of Class 3A state champions. And whereas this remarkable achievement marks the second Class 3A state title in 3 years for the York girls cross country team, and whereas the York team consisted of 4 extraordinary all-state runners, Catherine Klimek, who placed 11th individually, Margaret Owens, who placed 12th individually, Michaela Quinn, who placed 16th individually, and Anna McGrail, who placed 21st individually. And whereas the journey to the state meet was filled with triumphs as the York girls cross country team earned titles as WSC Conference champions, IHSA regional champions, and IHSA sectional champions. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to York Community High School, to District 205, and to the community of Elmhurst. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to the York Girls Cross Country Team for their outstanding performance in this competition.
Thank you to the cross-country team parents also who endured a lot, getting their athletes up and ready and running every day and staying on top of them with their schoolwork and everything. Thank you to the families and parents who supported them through this successful journey. We will now move on to our next recognition, which is the fall sports recognition.
All right, so if we can have all our fall sports athletes and coaches come on up. Way to show up. Coach. All right, the District 205 Fall Sports once again had an amazing year. As we just heard, in addition to the phenomenal successes of our girls cross country program, so many of our fall sports teams performed at the highest levels. We would be here all night if we went through and listed all the accomplishments, but we want to take a moment for the Board of Education to acknowledge the unwavering dedication of our fall athletes. You pushed beyond and displayed strength and sportsmanship. And on the way, you crossed individual, team, and sports records. Our boys soccer team once again performed, competed, and succeeded at the highest levels. Our boys cross country team raced to victory throughout the season and fought hard at the IHSA state competition. Our boys golf team succeeded throughout the season and produced all conference honors and IHSA regional, sectional, and state performances. Our girls golf team saw IHSA regional, sectional, and state qualifying success. Our girls tennis team finished second in conference, second in sectional, and 8th at state. Our girls swim and dive team succeeded at IHSA regional and sectional competitions and sent athletes to the IHSA state competition. Our girls volleyball team represented York at the IHSA regional series, and we showcased an amazing inaugural season of Special Olympics volleyball, which if you didn't get a chance to see a game, I would highly recommend it, because it truly showcased what athletes and sports mean in our community. Our cheer and pom squads braved the weather and the crowds and led the school spirit charge throughout the fall season, and we wish them the best of luck during competition season. And lastly, we once again saw our Dukes football team with a conference championship and an amazing playoff run leading up to their battle in the 8A state semifinal championship. Your unwavering commitment has been displayed every step of the way. You have shown us that success isn't only about the wins and losses, but about the character and relationships you have built along the way. It was more than just school spirit. It was community spirit, and you all did that. Having a front row seat to seeing our York athletes bring our community together was an amazing gift that you gave to us. So thank you to each and every one of you for representing York High School, Elmhurst, and your family with pride. Congratulations to all our fall sports athletes, coaches, and parents for a phenomenal year. We appreciate you.
Thanks again to all of our fall athletes and their families for a tremendous season, and we look forward to what you do next. You're all dismissed, yes, Mr. Caforio. Okay, thank you so much. And finally, we have our Sandburg Middle School Spotlight. Mr. Lewis is here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
All right, appreciate it. All right, good evening, Board of Education members, district administration, and Greater District 205 community. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and highlight the many celebrations within our Sandburg community. As we look forward to connecting with our family and friends over winter break, I am reminded of how fortunate I am to have joined the Sandburg and District 205 community, and how grateful I am for everyone's welcome and support during the first half of the school year. I was inspired by the many exemplary elements within the Sandburg community and believe we can experience even greater accomplishments if we all lean into the practices that have long defined our success. Together, we are committed to elevating best practices in service to our Spartan students and families. As Dr. Campbell accurately predicted in her welcome back message, this has been an amazing year. Our students, staff, and community continue to lean in for the benefit of all Spartans. After my first semester of joining the Sandburg community, I want to share highlights about how we are prioritizing student engagement and student celebrations at Sandburg. When we think about student engagement, in our middle schools, our elective teachers excel in their ability to engage all students in diverse learning experiences, providing a variety of pathways to identify and explore their passions and purpose. One of these pathways led to York's Aquatic Center, where Sandburg PLTW students demonstrated their accumulated STEM knowledge, putting their designs to the test with our second annual boat regatta. One crew of students was so confident in their design that they were able to take Mr. Walker, one of our PLTW teachers, across the pool and back without capsizing, despite the encouragement of many students and families. Family and consumer science is yet another opportunity for students' skills and abilities to be recognized, celebrated, and developed. From proper technique to creative interpretations of recipes from across the world, students within FCS are inspired by hands-on learning experiences. I had the opportunity to learn from our 8th graders as they perfected the foundational skills of cutting to include chop, dice, and mince techniques. As you can see, with my knowledge and skills still developing, I had a great student leader to show me the way. There are countless examples of our Spartans engaging in elective course offerings, but the last one I'll highlight is our students honing their creativity. Within industrial technology, students are able to utilize CAD software to design and build a desk caddy and a bird feeder. The passion demonstrated by our teachers and students makes me a bit jealous I didn't get to build my very own desk caddy. As has been highlighted in past meetings, we benefit from our efforts to modernize facilities and pursue or provide high-quality, engaging learning spaces while also providing highly engaging and research-aligned curricular resources to our teachers. Pictured within our media center, our youngest learners benefit from the rigor of our piloted Wit and Wisdom curriculum. Through Socratic seminars, students lead discussions, challenging each other's thinking while developing deeper understanding of the text. It has been great to see this new space has allowed our teachers to facilitate dynamic learning opportunities throughout the building. Utilizing our media center again, our 6th grade math students work together to solve unit rate problems. The vertical whiteboards make student thinking visible and encourages students to engage in discussion around the conceptual understanding behind each challenge. This allows students to do the thinking and the teacher to act as the facilitator and supporter when students get stuck in their problem solving. It has been great to see students engaging and being challenged in courses all throughout their day. Another focus that we have leaned into this year's student celebrations. Our students are doing amazing things that we want to showcase. Celebrations have always been a part of the fabric of our Sandburg community, but this year we've sought to elevate these celebrations, including each grade level and representation from our elective courses. Students have more opportunities to be celebrated thanks to our combined efforts. As a part of our team approach, students are recognized by their grade level team, included in announcements, receive a certificate, have a member of our support staff contact home sharing the specifics of their celebration, and are included in a drawing to receive a prize for their efforts. The 6th grader pictured was recognized for including others and demonstrating kindness to her classmates under our Kindness in the Classroom theme of inclusiveness. Our Sandburg student leadership team continues to set the bar for what student leadership can bring to a school community. Not only do they act in an advisory capacity, providing feedback and important context on how our school environment efforts or school improvement efforts are being felt by our students, but they also take an active role in implementing improvements. This year, our student leadership team co-created and presented our kickoff all-school assembly, presenting information on opportunities to get involved and what it means to be a Spartan. They did an outstanding job. Our Sandburg community has also leaned into deepening student-staff relationships this year. One way this is happening is through supporting Kindness in the Classroom implementation across all grade levels. Our weekly Kindness in the Classroom activities allow students to get to know each other and create a common language for how we engage across settings. Pictured here is a list of co-created norms about how one class will demonstrate respect for each other, the space, and themselves for the entire school year. Another way we are supporting strong teacher-student relationship this year is with the implementation of weekly check-ins where staff are able to identify the needs and strengthen connections with each of our students. Administration and support staff are able to identify trends and respond to needs in a timely manner. There are also opportunities to strengthen connections by sharing in student celebrations, such as athletic victories, social celebrations, and even random moments of gratitude. This short check-in is given at the start of each week and allows our caring and responsive staff to lean into what they do best, coming alongside our students to support their academic success. Lastly, I would like to recognize the strong partnership that exists between Sandburg and our greater school community. Our parents are an integral part of our success, and we look forward to accomplishing much more as we lean into the best of what Sandburg has to offer. Thank you to the Board of Education for allowing me the time to share a snapshot of what makes Sandburg great. I'm looking forward to an amazing second half of the school year.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And I just want to say, seeing you every morning at the drop-off, and I think it's important to just illustrate that what is happening at Sandburg, what you just presented, that focus on social emotional well-being, connectivity, engagement in learning. You walk the walk, you don't just talk the talk. I see you every morning outside making connections with kids, starting conversations, getting to know them. And I just want to say thank you for your leadership and for modeling what I think you are prioritizing when it comes to Sandburg and what our students need there. So thank you so much, and thank you for the great presentation. Okay, next on our agenda is the public hearing on the adoption of the 2023 levy certificate. We will now declare the public hearing open. It is 7:31, and an overview of the adoption will be given by Mr. Welton.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are seeking board approval on the 2023 tax levy. In the presentation, I will explain the tax levy components, differentiate between the levy and the extension, present the proposed tax levy and its impact, and share the rationale for the proposed levy. On December 8th, we published the Truth in Taxation notice in the newspaper. Tonight here now is the public hearing, and then we will seek board approval on the 2023 tax levy later in the agenda. After board approval, we will file the tax levy at both counties on December 22nd. This needs to be done by the end of December. At the end of March 2024, DuPage County calculates the final EAV, new construction, and tax extensions. As you know, the property taxes for the 2023 tax levy are collected in calendar year 2024. First half in June 2024, and the second half in September 2024. The Property Tax Extension Limitation Act is known as the tax cap. It limits the operating extension to the lesser of CPI or 5%. CPI for calendar year 2022 was 6.5%. So now determining the 2023 tax levy. What we know the tax cap is 5%. But what we don't know now are two factors: the overall EAV, or equalized assessed value. But the overall EAV really only impacts the tax rate. In our calculations, overall EAV is estimated to increase 7%. This larger increase in EAV is due to the quadrennial reassessment. Sometimes residents believe that their tax bill will increase in the same amount as their increase in EAV. But that is not the case. When the overall EAV increases more than CPI, the tax rate lowers. The more critical unknown factor is new construction EAV. This is critical because it is exempt from the tax cap. We use a rough estimate of new construction EAV at $34 million. This is based on past new construction amounts. Residential new construction has averaged about $27 million per year, and commercial industrial has averaged about $7 million per year. We want to make sure we understand the tax levy terminology. The levy is the Board of Education's request to the county for property taxes. The extension is what the county ends up actually putting on the tax bills. And no matter what Elmhurst District 205 levies, the county will only extend the increase allowable under the tax cap. In this slide, we have the 2022 extension in the left columns, the 2023 levy in the middle columns, and the estimated extension in the right columns. 2023 tax levy is in the middle columns. We know that the capped operating funds have a cap of 5%. So above the 5% is for the new construction. So the levy is a 6.62% request, which includes the cap of 5% plus 1.62 for new construction, but will likely be more like the estimated columns on the right of 6.06%. As far as the bond and interest, we have a levy with a 3.07 increase at $15,916,813. With the 1% loss in costs added on, it results in a bond and interest extension of $16,075,981. This was the scheduled amount from the referendum. So overall, the 2023 levy includes $135,865,000 for the operating cap funds and $15,916,813 for bond and interest, for a total levy of $151,781,813. On a $500,000 house with no new construction, only existing property, on average, the District 205 portion of the bill would increase by 4.90% or $281.25. The operating portion makes up 89.5% of the levy and is 5%, and is a 5% increase. And the bond and interest portion makes up 10.5% of the levy, and it's a 3.07% increase. Operating revenues. So what we're expecting from the state and federal aid moving forward for Elmhurst 205 is very flat. And the state formula basically requires any future revenue growth will have to be local funds. And the next slide addresses Elmhurst 205's low tax rate. Here is a chart illustrating the property tax rate, which compares Elmhurst 205 to our comparable unit districts. And Elmhurst 205 has the lowest rate. Operating expenditures and transfers. School districts are impacted by inflation. Property taxes are imperative to cover the rising costs required to continue developing and maintaining high-quality community schools and drive student success. Aligned staffing models to support student growth and achievement provide adequate services to support the increased diverse learning needs of students. Historic labor shortages have had a significant impact on the district's ability to attract and retain staff in various positions. Health claims and medical inflation are resulting in a historic premium increase of 36.8%. This labor market has resulted in substantial contract increases in purchase services such as busing, nursing, and athletic training. District 205 has aligned curricular resources utilized at the elementary, middle, and high school to maximize student success. Investment in the school buildings and intentional scope expansion utilizing the district's operating reserves. Therefore, the transfer of $7 million annually for 3 years will be from operating funds to capital projects funds. Slide 11 here. This is a new requirement that we show the cash balance reserves during the levy hearing. These balances are from our June 30th monthly financial reports, and it shows that we started the fiscal year with $63,431,945. The Illinois State Board of Education has established a threshold of 2.5 times their average annual operating expenditures for the previous 3 years, which for Elmhurst 205 is $348,296,173. The point is that Elmhurst 205 is well below the threshold set by the Illinois State Board of Education. Elmhurst School District 205 consistently delivers a high return on investment while maintaining the lowest tax rate and providing all students with robust, high-quality programming and enhanced learning experiences, including staffing model for students with expanding diverse learning needs across the district, specifically EL and special education. Aligning student data and needs to appropriate academic and social-emotional interventions, specifically reading and math specialists. Building strong school-based instructional leadership teams with the addition of assistant principals at the elementary school level and reconfiguring assistant principal roles at the high school level to best meet the building needs. Implementing evidence-based curriculum aligned with robust professional development offerings for all stakeholders at the district and school level. Expansion of Project Lead the Way to elementary schools. Expansion of programming including dual language to middle schools. Offering all-day kindergarten in every elementary school. Increasing safety measures, including secure vestibules and additional cameras. Allowing students to pursue their purpose and passion through a wide range of secondary elective courses. Investment in our buildings by modernizing and maintaining high-quality facilities. Enhanced digital resources, including communications, data analysis tools, learning management systems, and virtual application environment. Robust summer programming to support student passions and accelerate learning outcomes. The district is the second largest employer in Elmhurst and has high-quality staff with 92% retention rate, and 65% of our staff hold a master's degree or higher. We have over 1,200 permanent employees, including more than 340 that live in the community. That means almost 30% of our staff are Elmhurst residents. In the 2022 citizen survey conducted by the City of Elmhurst, when asked what Elmhurst residents like most about living here, the number one response was the excellent public schools. Elmhurst School District 205 consistently delivers a high return on investment while maintaining the lowest tax rate and providing all students with robust, high-quality programming and enhanced learning experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welton. Are there any public comments related specifically to the 2023 adoption of the 2023 levy certificate?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, and we'll open it up to the board if there's any comments, questions at this time.
I won't take a lot of time because I think everybody already has a clear idea of how I feel. We increased property taxes 6.25% in 2021, 5% in 2022, and now the vote in 2023 is for an increase of 5.7%. It's a compound rate over those 3 years of about 18%. That's more than the previous 10 years combined, when the average inflation rate was 1.8%. During those 10 years, the district ran a surplus in all except for one of those years. I think the school district can exist and thrive on just a little less. I can support a 3%, 3.5%, maybe even a 4% increase, but not 5%. Our taxpayers have been extremely supportive, and we need to keep them in mind. That's why I'll be voting no.
Any other comments from the board? None? Really? Okay. You want to go, Kelly? Does anybody have anything to say? If they do, let's go. Yeah.
You know, as we know, it's our duty as elected officials to balance fiscal responsibility for taxpayers with the many needs of our students. I know none of us take this responsibility lightly. We know that inflation, as Chris has said, has caused price increases for everyone, but it also has for our district as well. We've had health plan premium increases due to health claims, medical inflation, cost increases in services such as busing, nursing, supplies, etc. So it's a very complex balance between being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars while providing the necessary services and supports for our students and ensuring their diverse needs are being met. We want to continue our district on its journey of excellence, continue elevating student growth and achievement, and keep moving our district in a positive direction. We want to ensure our community receives a return on its investment, and we do that through continuous improvement, maintaining resources and supports that meet student needs, and making data-driven decisions.
Anybody else?
I'll just make just a few comments. I mean, I think I echo a lot of what Kelly said about we're all taxpayers. Our neighbors are taxpayers. A lot of us have family members that are also taxpayers. And so I think we are in a very unique and challenging situation. But our role is really to ensure that our students' needs are met and also that we balance the needs of the community and their tax dollars as well. And I don't think anyone here is taking that decision lightly. I think it's also important to just point out that I don't think when we're saying a 10 or a 5% tax levy does not necessarily translate to a 5% tax raise for community members. And I think it's important to make that distinction because what the district is asking for is 5% more on the amount of money on their budget than they asked for the year prior. And while we know that the numerator of the equation is going to go up by 5%, we also know that the equalized assessed value is going up by around 7%, which actually means a lower tax rate for our community. And so we don't know exactly how much that translates to each individual person because it depends on your portion of the entire tax base in Elmhurst, which is very large. It's like $3.4 billion, just to put that into context. I think it's also important to comment that while we're seeing higher property values and we're seeing increase in new construction property values every year, there's a reason why people are choosing to move here to this community and build homes. And a lot of it is for our high performing schools. And so it's our duty to make sure that we're continuing to meet the needs of our students and to continue to work towards providing and their growth. And we don't want to ever be in a position where we are needing to cut student programs. So thanks.
Anybody else? Beth?
I said this a little bit at the last meeting, but you can see from Chris's presentation in this slide here, especially all the work that's being done currently and has been done by our team and our staff across the district. I mean, it's an enormous amount of work that's being done to meet the needs of all of our students, and those needs they expand and they change, and we're never quite sure exactly what resources we're going to need when we're tackling these different areas. So while a lot of work is being done, we still are in the throes of addressing some areas that we've been looking at through our strategic plan for improvement. And at this time, I don't believe we know exactly what we're going to need as far as resources and staff support and student support. And that's why I believe financial flexibility at this time is so important. So we want to continue to meet the needs of all of our students. We want to continue to support our staff and provide the resources and professional development that they need to support all of our students. And we want to continue to attract and retain fantastic people like we do to this district. So just wanted to comment on those few things.
Any other comments? Okay, I will just make a couple comments. I agree with a lot of what was been said, and I just want to illustrate and talk a little bit about, what the public sees is what we say and what we discuss at the board meeting, and what they don't see is how seriously decisions like this are taken, and how I know that is by the conversations, the work, the thoughtfulness that goes into every board meeting by every board member here, the hours that are put in by every board member and the administration, and that intentionality and thoughtfulness. These are never easy decisions. These are two competing interests that have, in my opinion, equal weight. We have to take as seriously the taxpayer into consideration, of course, as well as and balance that with what students need. There are a number of meetings. Those who are interested can go back and take a look at our deeper dialogues on school budgeting and budgets, finance committee meetings. There are former board meetings, prior board meetings you can take a look at where you'll see a deeper dive into the finances of the school and the dialogue among board members as we weed through this very difficult decision, especially in times like what we're experiencing right now economically with inflation and a 4-year reassessment that happens every 4 years. So I appreciate the highlight of the value that our tax dollars are bringing to the school and the impact that those tax dollars are having on the student experience. And really, I'd like to say, I don't know if pleased is the right word, but I guess hopeful and inspired by some of the data that we're seeing more recently on the exact impact that this is having on student experience and, most importantly, student learning and preparation for life after they leave here. And that's swinging, I'm hoping, the data showing in the right direction as of this year. So in order to maintain, this is the grind, in order to maintain that momentum and to continue to meet kids where they are and to fill some of these gaps, there's a financial aspect to that. And I most importantly want to highlight this idea that, our fund balance, and I know, Chris, you shared our June 30th date. Most recently, again, you can go back to the Finance Committee and Policy Committee conversations around appropriate amount of fund balance for our district, and the board deciding that the 15-20% cash flow low point was where we wanted to be. And we thought that was giving us enough financial flexibility to meet the needs of students and retain a highly qualified staff and carry out the goals of the strategic plan that were set forth by this community. This community told us what they wanted our public schools to focus on, and that is what our administration has been working so diligently to accomplish. And so the one piece of the fund balance that I just want to highlight is that we know that after next year, we will be very close or less than what the board approved to be the comfortable amount of fund balance and reserve by cash flow low point. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Like we are putting money and resources in the places that are really having an impact on kids and their learning and their growth. And that is intentional. It takes a lot of work and a lot of analysis and a lot of continual assessment. And we will continue to do that work. And this administration, I know, is committed to continue to do that work as we move forward. Thank you. Oh, Kara has one more thing.
Just a quick question. Maybe I missed it on the chart, but when do we have the abatement conversation? Is that in February? Okay, thank you.
I think we're going to have a presentation in January on the abatement, and then we'll vote in February.
Okay. Anything else on the public hearing? We are all good. And with that, the public hearing on the annual budget for the 23, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Those are old notes. The public hearing on the adoption of the 2023 levy certificate is now declared closed, 7:54 PM. Moving on to public comments on the agenda. The public comment section of the board meeting provides an opportunity for community members to share information and perspectives with the board. And while the board does not respond during public comments, we are listening and thoughtfully considering the message being shared. Each of us have high expectations for our community, and we ask that public comments are respectful and do not mention any individuals by name. The way in which we publicly engage when sharing differing perspectives is an opportunity to model healthy and respectful discourse for our students and greater community while creating an environment of collaboration and partnership. There will be up to 30 minutes allocated for public comment, 3 minutes per public speaker concerning items on this agenda. With that, the board secretary will give a reminder when you have 30 seconds left. Let's begin with our first speaker.
Mr. Chavez.
Hi, good evening. I'm sure it's a relief to see some improvement in certain areas in our schools. Every parent, every stakeholder that I know is eager to see all of our students thrive and succeed. One of the persistent and seemingly solvable problems that's holding back student success is chronic absenteeism. According to the U.S. Department of Education, teacher attendance is a leading indicator of student achievement. Research shows that when teachers are absent for 10 days or more, student outcomes decrease significantly. Teacher absence results in loss of instruction time for students, as well as financial concerns to the district when substitutes must be employed. Let me repeat, when teachers are absent for 10 days or more, student outcomes decrease significantly. So when we talk about meeting student needs, we have middle schoolers in District 205, not one middle school is above 50% math proficiency. We have York students still barely above 50% in ELA and math. We have our low-income population of students who are actually losing ground to the other students. So we talk about meeting student needs and we need the resources whose needs are being met. Last year, according to the Illinois Report Card, 40% of D205 teachers were chronically absent. There are 595 full-time teachers in D205. 238 missed 10 days or more last year. This means that 238 teachers are working 170 days or less. Compare this to the average worker outside of teaching who works on average 240 days a year and where the chronic absenteeism rate is only 3%. This isn't a chronic sickness issue. While there are, of course, some teachers who are truly sick, this is a taking advantage of the system and accountability problem, and it's Superintendent Campbell's problem to solve it. For those who say Tom doesn't support teachers, my answer is sure I do. I support the 60% who show up to the classroom every day to do their job. Superintendent Campbell is the CEO of our schools, and it's her obligation to ensure that there are teachers in our classrooms to teach our students. It's what our students deserve and what our taxpayers deserve. Tonight, Mr. Welton, on behalf of the district, is proposing to raise your taxes yet again by 5%, the maximum allowable amount. Among the reasons given is inflation at 6.5%. The latest BLS inflation report shows inflation is currently only 3.1%, less than half the inflation number quoted by District 205.
30 seconds.
In addition to the ever-increasing cost of funding our schools, the city of Elmhurst is preparing to raise water bills by 30%. For many folks, this is all adding up to some real money. Perhaps D205 can do with excess funds already available to fund its operations and allow some relief to Elmhurst residents, many of whom do not have limitless bank accounts.
There are no other comments.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who took the time to voice their concerns, support, or perspectives with the Board of Education. Common practice of the board is to follow up with public commenters after the board meeting as needed. Moving on to item 7, the approval of the board meeting minutes. Item A is the approval of regular board meeting minutes from November 14th, 2023. Are there any changes to the minutes? Seeing no changes, those meeting minutes stand as presented. and the approval of closed session minutes from November 14th, 2023. Those meeting minutes stand as presented. Item 8, reports and presentations. We'll start with our first report and presentation from the administration. It is the middle school schedule for school year 2024-25.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. So the middle school schedule, continuous improvement of this actually started and took place all the way back in 2019, if you can go back to that time period when we were actually shifting the electives from what was 5 7-week courses in our Unified Arts Wheel at the time to 4 quarterly courses. At that time, all the way back 2019, I know it feels a long time ago, we were already talking about and recommending, in quotes, the examination of the length of time for our core and our elective courses. So we're getting back to that tonight, and we'll share a bit more context for you as to why. So in the presentation tonight, we will get into the rationale for improving the schedule. We will attach that and align it with relevance to our D205 Journey of Excellence framework. We'll talk about the process that we use to inform these schedule changes with a great group of staff that we call the Middle School Schedule Collaborative. And we'll also preview the administration's schedule recommendation for next year. So the current middle school schedule, as you heard tonight from Principal Lewis with the Sandberg Spotlight, provides a series of really, really wonderful course offerings for our students. It incorporates student preferences into the schedule. We have daily structured time for academic support for students. However, since its implementation, which started in 2017-18, we have had several state-level changes with standards, as well as school code that led to some of the middle school redesign that we're looking at tonight. Also, we have some varying minutes of instruction that exist across different courses, and there are some implications for those minutes and our ability and skill set as it relates to the time that are devoted to students to achieving some of the desired student outcomes that we heard from our community feedback in 2021 with the strategic plan, which eventually led to our Student Journey of Excellence framework. So when we look back in 2021, the strategic planning process engaged a diverse group of community representatives through our interviews, focus groups, surveys. And one of the things that was asked of the community and the stakeholders at that time was to choose 4 priorities for the district to really zero in on for the next 3 to 5 years. And when asked that question, 70% identified preparing students to be ready for the next grade level and ultimately college and career. 42% expressed an interest in ensuring a well-rounded experience for all students. And then 36% identified addressing students' social emotional needs as a priority. All of this was used and reviewed and analyzed, and all of it helped to inform what the district eventually arrived at, which was the Student of Journey Excellence framework. There are obviously many other data points as well, but I highlight these 3 because I think you're going to see those show up when we look at the mission, the vision, and the values, with a big focus on the actual values themselves that were developed out of that data. So in approaching this work, a lot of the time that the collaborative spent looked at things like collaboration and problem solving, fostering global citizenship, exploring purpose and career pathways. And as you know, just from your work here at the board level, we utilize those values when we create objectives that are aligned to a lot of our planning, both at the department level as well as at the school level. So the team of team members who work together, it was asking themselves the question of how is the current middle school schedule preparing our students to be ready for college, career, and life? And that was really the driving force for a lot of this work. As I mentioned, some of the strengths a slide or 2 ago, but when we looked at some of the considerations, the State Board of Ed has a quote that says the district must provide a coordinated and supervised social studies course in their elementary schools, which includes grades 6 to 8 at the state's determination. The allotment is at the election of the local school board, ISB also goes on to state, it's highly recommended that middle schools offer a full year course in social studies. One of the reasons for this is that helps meet some of the guidelines that are set forth in what we use often in planning, which is the Illinois instructional mandates. It also, as ISB states, provides a practical and comprehensive learning experience for our students, which is something that we all want and that we saw again in that stakeholder feedback. I can get more into the weeds with you if you'd like as it relates to the Illinois mandates, but there are a couple of specific components that do call out and make some questions for us around frequency and the use of instructional minutes. Specifically in grades 7 and 8, there is a actual quote that describes and requests that it must be taught for not less than 1 hour of each school week in grades 7 and 8, and that refers to American government. So the team really looked through a lot of that information, obviously also comparing it with data points along the way. And what we were trying to figure out really was how can we improve the daily and the weekly allotment of minutes, specifically looking at the scheduling of courses, teachers as well as administrators from across all 3 schools. We had 6 working sessions. We started back in the spring of last year, met into the summer, and met several times leading up to tonight. So really, really hardworking group. Lots of great feedback was shared throughout. We focused the most on the broad areas of engagement and analysis. The scope of the work for the collaborative was really to make meaning of data. It was both quantitative as well as qualitative. To use that data as well as their input to then provide information for the administration to then use in developing a schedule to propose to you tonight. So tonight, along with the January 16th meeting, was really the goalpost for us that we were striving to meet. And to accomplish this work, we went through several collaborative protocols. One of the big shifts from the past was a real encouragement on two-way communication. So we had a lot of information coming in from the schools to the collaborative, and then a lot of information going out from the collaborative to the schools as well. We wanted to crowdsource intentionally all the good ideas that might exist in the schools, just to make sure it didn't limit itself to a vacuum of team members who were meeting, who are already doing great work, but may not have had the answer outside of that. As a result, we looked at over 20 schedules, picked a lot of those schedules apart. Some of that was more painful than others, but we made through it, and the team really, really stuck together. So as a result, the proposed schedule for next year, it continues to provide multiple course offerings, which again, you heard highlighted tonight. It still allows students to explore their interests and their passions in preparation for high school and beyond, but it does adjust the minutes of instruction for 4 specific subjects. And I'll show you a little bit of a comparison here of this year in comparison to what's proposed. So if you look at this model here that we have in front of you, the biggest difference you'll see is the instructional minutes as well as the frequency of meeting for ELA, English Language Arts, math, science, and social studies. So in this scheduling model that the administration is recommending, we are proposing to schedule daily science and social studies across grades 6 to 8. So this would change and require 55 minutes in this model that would be daily for ELA, math, science, and social studies, which is a change, as you'll see on that chart, from the current schedule of 75 minutes daily for ELA and math. Science and social studies currently do have 75 minutes, but keep in mind, they only meet once a semester. So students will alternate currently taking 75 minutes a day for 1 semester of science, and then the same for social studies or vice versa. This model that we're proposing here still offers the existing 9 elective options. Those would all still remain, which is currently scheduled at 40 minutes. Just so you're aware, those include band, orchestra, choir, Spanish, Project Lead the Way, and then in our unified arts offerings, We have art, family and consumer science, general music, and industrial technology. The administration is planning to offer creative technology next year, but the offering will only be for grades 7 and 8. So I want to make sure that's clear. The reason for that is we've noticed an overlapping curriculum as it relates to 6th grade creative tech and 6th grade Project Lead the Way. So we will still offer it in 7th and 8th, not in 6th for next year. We also are planning to redevelop the use of time in the current model that currently exists for what's called Flexible Learning Lab. So this redevelopment would involve establishing consistent practices across all 3 schools for the use of that time for specifically intervention, enrichment, and SEL to meet all of our students' needs, especially those students who aren't necessarily engaging with the necessary interventions currently. We did bring the schedule forth to the Illinois State Board of Ed. There are several leaders that we engaged in different departments. We did have a really positive response from the state as it relates to whether and to what extent this schedule model fits with both the Illinois Learning Standards as well as some of the comprehensive changes that have happened in social studies. And we did receive a positive response. They even provided us with a quote. I could read it for you later if you like. It's rather lengthy though. But we had positive feedback from the state, which we think was really helpful. Some of the next steps to continue with this success, we are going to meet again actually tomorrow with the Middle School Collaborative. We're going to continue to gauge their feedback. They gave some really good ideas at our last meeting on November 16th, so we want to process through that to make sure it's successful. We focused on a number of areas as it relates to communication of this, overall logistics, et cetera. We're also going to continue to engage our principals as it relates to staffing implications that might be taking place as it relates to FTEs, particularly and possibly in science. The Learning Teaching Department is already collaborating with principals. They're creating plans for each of the core content areas that I mentioned, who may have an increase or decrease, just to make sure that we're addressing anything related to resources and any sort of shifts that may be needed. This is also being taken into consideration with any new curricular or instructional materials that may be presented for adoption at the board meeting in February as well. So we're thinking through this very intentionally to make sure that it's not any sort of sweeping change, but to make sure that it's intentional and it's supported. And just as a reminder, this is just a presentation of it tonight. The actual formal action would be proposed at the January 16th meeting. And the other piece I'll mention that we didn't talk about as much before is just monitoring the change and making sure we have a plan for the future as it relates to whether or not this met its intended outcomes. And one of the pieces, as I mentioned, was that guiding question about how is the current middle school schedule preparing our students to be ready for college, career, and life. And there's a real opportunity for us to look at the impact of student enrollment at York as it relates to course offerings that might be aligned with pathways in these courses. So that could include advanced placement. It could also include things like biology honors, AP Human Geo, et cetera. So there's an opportunity to get feedback from staff about the effectiveness. Obviously, we'll continue to look at student learning outcomes. We have a real great structure for that, but I wanted to highlight that possible course offering analysis as well, just to make sure that we're looking at that 612 continuum and our student learning experience in that. Thank you for your time. We'll take any questions if they exist.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Kara.
Sorry. So just to, I want to be sensitive to, there've been a lot of changes at middle school to the schedule, partly because of COVID. And then prior to that, scheduling changes were done to hopefully deepen the academic experience, particularly in math and reading, or ELA. So understanding this is now a different schedule with different class time allotments, Can you speak to what kind of professional development or professional time or professional support is being given to our staff to make the adjustments and also to ensure that there's alignment for and pacing to get through the standards and
Sure.
align with assessments?
Yeah, I can start, and if you want to take it. So we've already had we've already started that work with social studies, just because the standards have shifted, particularly over the last 2 years. We've had additional standards and expectations added as well, just in terms of school code. So there's already been a lot of work going on in terms of instructional shifts that might exist. I'll let Carrie, if you want to jump in, give more specificity on it.
Sure. So the Learning and Teaching Department is working with principals to create that plan, like you said, right? Because some of our content areas are going to get an increase in instructional minutes while some are decreasing. So science, for example, right? We use Amplify Science in middle school. And so those lessons have been designed for 45 minutes. That's what Amplify recommends for that pacing. So we have actually then taken that curriculum, right, and built it into a semester-long curriculum and really identified those high leverage modules or units that they're going through. So now we'll be working with those science teachers to then go back to the curriculum. We'll be able to teach it in its totality for each unit and really not have to make those modifications. So it's also in alignment with any resources that we're proposing. So in February, we'll come to you all with any resources that we're looking to adopt, and so making sure that this is top of mind when we're thinking about what resources, if any, that we're going to be proposing as well. And so really thinking of it as like, what's the whole experience we want for teachers second semester to make sure that everyone's comfortable and confident with any shifts that are going to be made, right? A 75-minute period is different than 55 minutes. And so setting them up for success in that way, but then also looking at the individual resources for each content area as well. So both of those.
Anyone else? Courtney?
I'm sure I missed it, and I apologize. How was the collaborative, who was it compiled of? Who was on that committee, or who was on part of it? I didn't see it in the presentation. I looked, and if I did, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, great question. So we had we had staff members at the teacher level across all 3 schools. So I'm just looking at a list. Everything from, math, social studies, counselors, band, EL, special education, science, English. So we had a real good mix of staff from across all 3 buildings, roughly anywhere from 25 to 35 staff members at each meeting. And then, of course, the administrative team members who lead each one of those schools, and then Carrie and myself as well.
And then every staff member across all the buildings, they were surveyed, and all the parents and teachers, so everyone was surveyed and had the opportunity to add in their input.
Yeah, great question. Sorry I didn't specify that. We added, we surveyed students currently in grades 6 through 9, and then we also surveyed parents and guardians in grades 6 through 9, and then all middle school staff.
Great. And then just one thing, I just wanted to see if we can get a little more depth and understanding of, the FLL time is still 30 minutes. I'm assuming it's still going to be at the beginning of the day for enrichment and SEL. And I know that I've talked before about how to best use that time for students that might not need enrichment or SEL assistance or any other kind of focused help during that time. What's the plan moving forward on what that looks like, that first 30 minutes of the day?
Yeah, great question. To clarify, we're not certain yet that it'll be at the first 30 minutes of the day, but we have narrowed that it would be 30 minutes daily. The team members who looked at the data, as well as the feedback that we had from both students, staff, and parents, all definitely pointed to an opportunity there to improve that time. One of the pieces that we saw that was a trend was just consistency and really what we're doing with that time. We also heard that we have an opportunity to make sure that we maximize it for students who potentially aren't utilizing it for interventions. So coming up with consistent expectations for that will be one of the first steps, and then helping to support with that across the 3 schools as well. Principals will play a definite integral part in that, and getting their input. But we think it'll be a definite improvement from what we have currently, particularly for those students, like I said, that don't necessarily need an intervention currently.
Okay, I'll look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you.
Kara, will you be able to bring that back in January? Some of what
Sure.
the FLL could look like?
Yeah, we could try to bring a couple of key components back, sure.
I like to make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. I think that potentially maybe around later in our February, as we mentioned, there is an opportunity in our scheduled timeline if there are additional curriculum resources that we want to propose. There could be some opportunity to kind of bundle that together in terms of what resources we have and what supports our students are going to need. So I think January is going to come a little quickly. And so if you would allow us maybe a little bit more time, as he said, one of the things that we really want to honor is the voice of our principal leaders in this work. And making sure that we are engaging them and having a shared understanding of what the consistency across our middle schools will look like as it relates to this particular time. And so I know there are meeting scheduled, and I appreciate our wanting to fulfill that ask as soon as possible. But I think honestly, particularly, or maybe the February meeting would be a little bit more realistic, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I just would like some concrete examples of what it's going to look like. Thanks. Jim?
I'm very happy to see an increased emphasis on science and social studies, but the proposal reduces the amount of time spent on math and English language arts by about 25%, a little more than that. What is your plan, or how do you compensate for the reduced time to make sure that doesn't result in reduced learning as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. We wrestled with that throughout. Admittedly, the elective offerings is significant, and working within the constraints of the school day and having the elective offerings that we have and the value on that was a really difficult balance act for everyone to go through. The planning that Carrie mentioned as it relates to the principals and their engagement, that will involve a lot of that decision making as to what we focus on, when we focus on it, and how we focus on it. So a lot of the professional learning will focus on whether or not you're getting new and additional minutes or having that reduction. So that's part of the upcoming planning.
Will we hear more about that in January as well?
My January expectations were appropriately pushed back upon. Which is necessary to use that get out of jail card every now and again. So I appreciate that. We can maybe provide an outline of that in February as well.
And I want to be clear on the ask as to what additional information. Can you just reframe that for us, Mr. Collins, so we can make sure that we capture?
Sure. I'm just looking for an explanation of, you're going to spend 25% less time on those two subjects. How do you ensure that that doesn't reduce in 25% less learning?
Yeah.
So, are those subjects going to be emphasized in these electives that kids take? Are the electives going to be revamped so that they emphasize those two subject areas in a fun and practical way?
Okay.
Things like that.
Understood. Great. Thank you for that clarification. We can definitely provide that, follow up with you on that.
I just had a follow-up to that. Dr. Grimes, can you just remind me, those minutes were increased at some point, is that correct? Several years ago? from 55?
So the initial, so the rollout of 75 minutes in ELA and math was a result of work in 2015, 2016 that didn't occur until, it wasn't implemented until 17, 18. So the planning and the proposal of the 75 minutes for ELA and math, some of that work started in 15, 16, and then the year of implementation was 17, 18.
So we started at 45 minutes
I
per.
don't know exactly if it was 45, but it was definitely less.
Same as the other,
Traditional junior
45
high
minutes
model,
each
45
period.
to 50-minute classes for every period.
for every
Like
period.
what a high
Okay,
school
I see,
schedule
I
is
see.
typical. Yeah.
So we went from a 45-minute traditional schedule to 2017 implementing increased minutes for math and ELA to focus on learning growth in those areas. We know what the data shows us from there. And then now we're talking about broadening the breadth and depth of the student curricular experience by expanding their academic opportunities, which I feel is very important, especially in preparation for high school and then whatever kids decide to do after that. And providing a more well-rounded curricular academic experience for kids. So it sounds like the reduction is not necessarily foreign to our district, and that what we're really choosing between is aesthetically two different structural models of delivering 4 academic cores, I'd say, versus 3 academic cores, while maintaining the interest of our community to balance a continued 3 elective program, which includes in middle school also a foreign language. So, there's a lot at play there, and I see the reduction of minutes being a risk in maybe impacting student learning, but 55 minutes is more than what we had prior, and also with effective teaching and instruction, teaching and learning strategies and instruction and planning, it simply can be done. Other districts are doing it without having a negative impact on student learning, right? So, okay, anything else from the board? All right, thank you for your time. It sounded like a great collaborative effort, and really enjoying all the stakeholders' voices and involvement in this planning. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on to item 8B, D205 website redesign.
Thank you very much. Tonight, I'd like to share a brief update with you regarding our efforts to analyze and research website options to determine the best course for District 205. So as part of the strategic plan creation, there were 5 clear objectives outlined for the community outreach and engagement, providing the guidance for all of our work. Aligned specifically with this presentation, their first bullet point states, provide clear, accessible, and consistent communications to the entire community throughout the use of a wide variety of tools. So, I'm sorry. We have made conscious efforts to really take a close look at our communications tools, resulting in the launch of Parent Square. And as part of that, I've also taken a look at our current website. I heard feedback from our staff and community members regarding whether the current site provided for clear, accessible, and consistent content. It was evident after those conversations that there's an opportunity to explore other website partners that may better meet the needs required to align online presence with the evolving dynamics of our district. As you may recall, I came to you in February with a request to move forward with a 1-year contract in lieu of the 3-year contract originally proposed by our current website provider. Upon review, Upon approval of that request, our team began a thorough review and inventory of our current content on our website, including analyzing what our most frequently used pages were, our current features, researching what other districts were doing, as well as who some of the other districts are using for providers. Utilizing all of that information, we drafted and launched a comprehensive request for proposal. In the launch of the RFP, it was important to us that our team have a review and analysis of all responses, that any consideration to move forward with a new website partner was an inclusive process and that incorporated input and representation from multiple stakeholders throughout the district. So we created a website evaluation committee that was comprised of members from each of the areas listed here: communications, human relations, our principals, school administrative assistants, information technology, our superintendent's office, student services, our parent and partner organizations, learning and teaching, and we also had a teacher that agreed to be on the committee with us. The RFP was shared with 12 website host companies for their review. 5 companies chose to respond to the RFP, and 3 of those companies submitted proposals that successfully fulfilled all of the requirements listed in the RFP. Unfortunately, following those presentations, committee evaluations, and feedback, as well as conversations with their references, none of these companies met the needs of the district. It's really important for us to make sure that whoever we choose to move forward with is truly going to be a great partner for the district. The need to be fully informed decision made with confidence that this change would result in a great product and great customer service for the district is extremely important. As such, the committee decided to resubmit their RFP and to a new list that included 3 additional companies. Following the analysis of the new responses, the committee moved forward with the review process for a company named Aptigee. The committee felt that the review and representation from Aptigee was successful, and we received stellar feedback during the reference checks that the committee has decided to continue discussions to potentially move forward with Aptigee as a new website partner for the district. As part of the final step in the review process, we're conducting a review of pricing and potential impacts to the budget. Initial reviews have shown that in addition to an upgraded user experience for both the front end and back end, we may also be able to save the district thousands of dollars per year by switching to a different company. We're continuing discussions with multiple departments to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of all of our stakeholders. We're diving deeper into their accessibility features, talking about SysSync options and final pricing structures for the district. In addition to the follow-up meetings that were being scheduled with Aptigee, the communications team has also been provided access to a simulation website to provide us hands-on experience in creating pages, editing pages, and exploring features and overall user experience to ensure a smooth transition if we were to move forward with Aptigee. A final contract ideally would be presented to the Board of Education at our next upcoming meeting in January for your consideration and approval. Once a contract is approved, staff would utilize the remainder of the current school year to build out the website in partnership with our schools and district departments to migrate our content and conduct staff trainings with the optimal goal of launching a new significantly improved website for the 24-25 school year. That's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Courtney?
Sorry, now I lost where I was. What was it about the 2 that you wanted to move forward with that failed, that the one that you want us to move forward with possesses? Like what was the thing that made it not work for you?
So we had the 2 companies that we were looking at, their back-end experience was improved from where we were, but what put the hard stop in accompanying the fact that it wasn't 100% for us improvement, like enough. When we did their customer service reviews and feedback, we got a lot of negative feedback on a couple of them that really made it clear that we weren't going to move forward. And the feedback that we've received with Aptigee was what you see now with your customer service is what you're going to continue to get throughout your partnership with them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or Kira?
I think this was on there, but it's going to be mobile friendly, right?
It is, and actually with a website from Aptigee, this wasn't planned, but this is a great ad, thank you. With the website from Aptigee, they actually provide a mobile app as well. So the mobile app isn't required to access the website, but it gives us an opportunity to build out a mobile portion of the website, so kind of a condensed version of the website that we can decide what is on there. And it would ideally be things like, links to PowerSchool and Parent Square and all of like lunch menus and things that are the top hits of the pages. But then yes, when you are on the back end of Aptogy and you make an adjustment to a page, it automatically shows you what it will look like on a cell phone, on an iPad, on a desktop, and on a laptop.
Excellent. Exciting. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you for a great presentation. Consent agenda, item number 9. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing no, can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda items. A, personnel report. B, financial report. C, bid 2405 Madison renovations. D, approve laser engraver. E, donation for Churchville Middle School. F, donation for Jefferson Elementary School. G, approve music instrument donation. And H, semiannual review of closed minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Troutman, second by Ms. Caforio. Please call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes.
Dr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Assif?
Yes.
And Mrs. Arvanitis?
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. Agenda action items, letter A is approve the 2023 resolution certificate of the levy. Can we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the 2023 certificate of levy.
I'll second.
Motion by Dr. Henry, second by Mrs. Hassler. Are there any comments from the board? With that, if we can please call the vote.
Dr. Henry?
Yes.
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Assif?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
No.
And Mrs. Arvanitis?
Yes, 6 ayes, 1 nay, motion passes. Letter B, approve the mental health grant. Dr. Campbell?
Good evening. As you are aware, back on October 22nd, we were notified by the Illinois Department of Public Health that the district had been awarded $249,000 in grant funds to support mental health services for students across the district. We're really excited about this new program. We are one of 10 districts across DuPage County. We're collaborating with those 10 school districts, meaning that across DuPage County, there are about $2.1 million in mental health services and mental health grant funds that are coming to DuPage County. It's really an exciting initiative that we are all a part of right now. What we are asking for right now is that as this our grant has been officially approved. The next step is that the Illinois Department of Public Health has to actually write a grant agreement, and it has not yet been written by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And we anticipate that it could come any day. And once that grant agreement has been written, then we will have it reviewed by our attorneys and be able to move forward for it. But we don't want to hold up the process of getting these grant funds out to students and starting the program and all of those other sorts of things, and having to hold an emergency board meeting. So what we are asking for this evening is for your approval of the grant agreement pending legal review.
Great, thank you, Dr. Rubenstein. Can we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the written agreement with the Illinois Department of Public Health for grant funds in the amount of $249,000, contingent upon a successful legal review.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Assif, second by Ms. Troutman. Are there any comments from the board? Kara?
I just wanted to say thank you for doing the work that helped get us this grant. Because I think, we just had the levy conversation, and we are well aware that we have a lot of needs that are much different than maybe what we've ever had. And this helps us meet those needs and helps us educate our students well, but takes some of the pressure off our regular budget. So thank you very much for doing that work, because I know that grant writing and grant proposals and forms and all of that take a lot of time. So thank you.
I just had one question. So does the IDPH determining how it's implemented in our school, or our school is determining how it's implemented?
Right. So as a part of the proposal, IDPH had to approve like the overall grant program and our budget and all of those other sorts of things. All of that's been approved. And ours was substantially similar to the 9 other districts in the county that did it. So what it is primarily going to be used for is to set up this intervention fund. So any student who we refer will be able to have up to 8 free counseling sessions with a community mental health provider. And so we will refer, and then they will be able to get free mental health services in the community. So it's removing a really big barrier for our students. We've talked with people at the city of Elmhurst already, Elmhurst Police Department, about these grant funds. People seem to be very excited about it. There are regular reports that we are talking about writing as that are required. So all of that is a part of it.
That's really exciting. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Beth?
And it talks about an online referral service. So will it help other families as well to connect them with service providers in this area?
Yep. So in addition to us, our team members being able to refer, you can self-refer. So there will be a website available to any family in the district that we will share our access code. So people will be able to, look at the website. You don't even have to go through the district. If you didn't want to do that, you could use your own insurance, but know that, these are providers that are in our community, that are in our area, that sort of thing. And they also have concierge services, so they could call you back and do those sorts of things. So it's really quite helpful. Indian Prairie School District 204 has had a similar program up and running for a little bit over a year and has reported really great success. So
Great. Thank you so much.
Kelly?
I also wanted to say thank you for your work on this as a person with a background in mental health services. This is really close to my heart. I'm so pleased our district applied for and received this grant money that will benefit and provide support for our students. An online referral service to mental health providers, access to telehealth counseling service, and up to the 8 free counseling service sessions, like you said, for students who utilize the grant funds will provide valuable support that can help students and families who may not otherwise have access to these services. So it's great. Absolutely excited about it.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Can we please call the vote?
Mrs. Assif?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes?
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Dr. Henry?
Yes.
And Mrs. Arvanitis.
Yes, 7 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. We have the approval for the PTA fundraising grants for 2023-24. Dr. Campbell?
So according to Policy 880, gifts to the district annually, the Parent-Teacher Association presents various fundraising priorities for approval for the Board of Education. And so tonight, with any value above $500. So tonight, administration has reviewed some of those fundraising proposals, and we're bringing them forward to the board as a recommendation. In the actual memo, I want to just kind of call out that we've identified Table 1, which really outlines some of those fundraising proposals that we feel is in shape to move forward for board review and possible approval tonight. And then we've also outlined receiving some requests in Table 2 that we know might require some additional information, and we are willing to look further into some of these items and bring them back to the board for approval at a later time. On behalf of just the administration, we cannot say enough how fortunate and appreciative we are to our parent teacher association for their tireless efforts and investments and their generosity that is sown directly back to our district, that directly impacts our schools, our teachers, our staff, and ultimately students. We also know that it's really important to continue to ensure that there are things that are clearly delineated as financial obligations and responsibilities of the district and not of the PTA organization. And so part of our review process extensively involves looking at items as it relates to facilities and grounds, as well as looking at particular items that might land in the camp of learning and teaching, and making sure that we are all in sync and in alignment with clearly delineating what is within the district's responsibility and where there are some opportunities for additional experiences to supplement the quality, high quality public education experience we're providing all students across all schools.
Thank you. Can we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the Parent Teacher Association annual fundraising priorities as presented in Table 1 for the 23-24 school year.
Anyone? I'll second. I can second.
Sorry.
I second. Sorry. I seconded. Yes. Sorry. Hello. You're waiting for me now. Are there, or sorry, any comments from the board? There we are. Yep.
Seeing this for the first time, sorry about that. I'm seeing that there's a replacement for NPR basketball hoops in Table 1 and Table 2. Yeah. Is there a reason why one is moving forward and one's not?
Yes, I'm so sorry. That era of that era, that should be specifically on Table 2. One of the things that I know wondering is in terms of our gym refresh that we have standard across all schools. And so this is not within their standard gym. This is in an additional space, which is in the NPR room, which is not within the scope of the district to update those particular basketball hoops. So the PTA is asking for an opportunity to do that. And I understand, I apologize that I see that it's showing up on both Table 1 and Table 2. I apologize. That should just be on Table 2.
Okay, so the Table 1 for Hawthorne will reflect just the 2 playground stencils?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you for the clarification.
And the Table 2 is further discussion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Also want to echo the strong and hard work of the PTA in our district. They provide so many wonderful opportunities for kids and create extensions of the classroom for many. And I know my children have had direct benefits, as all of ours have. So thank you to the PTA and PTA Council for all their hard work in fundraising and supporting our school buildings and students and their needs. With that, can we please call the vote?
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanitis?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Dr. Henry?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes.
And Mrs. Assaf?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes. We are on to superintendent communications, and we'll start with our FOIA requests.
1 FOIA request for TIF payments not in possession. 2 FOIA requests for referendum renovation documents since November of 2018, unduly burdensome. 2 FOIA requests for bid records granted. 1 FOIA request for specific maintenance equipment purchase not in possession. 1 FOIA request for Go Guardian records granted. 1 FOIA request for any grievance unduly burdensome. 1 FOIA request for securely records granted. 1 FOIA request for environmental testing records granted.
How many total records is that were requested, or FOIAs were there?
10.
Okay, yeah, high number, busy month. Thank you to the support team who responds within a timely manner to all of the requests that have been coming in recently. Moving on, communication highlights.
Tanya Daniels.
So, in keeping with starting this evening with Sandberg's Spotlight and then discussing the middle school schedule, I thought it was apropos that the video that we share this evening for our communications highlight be the video of the amazing Sandberg Regatta that he spoke about. You may have seen it recently on our social media pages, but in just one day, there were 2,445 views of the video, 124 people liked it, 10 people shared it, and 906 people watched it more than once, and we reached a total of we reached a total of 1,368 accounts, 31 of them being non-followers, so that's a reach beyond those that we could reach on our own without the shares and likes and comments from our community. So, hit it, Rudy. They're so intense.
Thank you. Very fun. Finally, board communications. Are there any board member reports or sharing of information? Seeing none, we have upcoming meetings. We have a scheduled Board of Education meeting on January 16th at 7 p.m. and a Committee of the Whole meeting taking place on February 7th at 5:30 p.m. Both meetings will be here at D205 Center in room 215 and 16. With that, at 8:52, this meeting is adjourned.